Today we're going to figure out a key reason why so many men fail to build relationships with women they really like. There's a saying that fits perfectly here. Men love with their eyes and women with their ears. You can be a successful man, you might have enough money, and you might have a pretty attractive appearance. But if you don't know how to communicate with women in a way that excites them and makes them want you, then all your looks, money, and success most likely won't help you. I've had plenty of students who had a lot of money and looked pretty good, but they still had problems with the women they liked the most. Yeah, and at first they're even puzzled as to why things work out just fine with some simple women, with women they're not that into. But with the ones they really like, nothing works out at all. Those women only see them as friends or quickly lose interest in talking to them altogether. And the main reason is that they don't know how to create attraction in a woman through flirting. Flirting is when you bring sexuality and playfulness into your interaction with a woman. Why is this important? Because it's through communicating with you that a woman can start to feel emotions. Emotions that will arouse her. We get aroused through our eyes, while women get aroused through their ears, through the emotions that arise in conversation. That's why in this video I want to give you some specific and really cool flirting techniques that you can use with women on dates so that they get aroused and desire you sexually. Look, in general, men who fail to get sexually close to a woman can be divided into two opposite types. The first type is those men who very actively try to really push their sexuality onto a woman, right? They try to touch her almost immediately, say very explicit things, and the woman gets scared, and she ends up being put off by this kind of interaction. And the second type of men are those who can wait for months for some kind of signal that it's okay to start some sort of sexual intimacy with a woman. Women see these men only as friends, at best. So your task is not to pressure her, not to push your sexuality onto a woman, but at the same time, not to wait for months until she starts giving you some kind of signals. Your task is to start warming up a woman with flirting right from the very beginning of your interaction to spark her attraction to you. Flirting isn't just about sexuality and playfulness, it's about control. It's very important to understand this now. What often happens is that a man just goes with the flow, handing over the reins of communication, so to speak, to the woman. In other words, he talks about whatever she wants to talk about. He asks her what she's interested in. He encourages her to pour her heart out to him so that she just talks about herself. He also shares something about himself. And so it turns out that the man isn't moderating the conversation. He's not the leader who is guiding the interaction toward a desired outcome. And since that's the case, since there's no such moderation, the woman essentially takes control of the conversation. She'll talk about her problems, her concerns, about her various situations. Then none of this brings you any closer together. You want her because she's beautiful and she stirs up emotions in you. But a woman doesn't feel attraction, because a woman's attraction arises from how you behave with her and how you communicate with her. And so flirting is the main element you need in order to steer the conversation, to guide it in the most optimal direction so that a woman gradually starts to want you. That is, starting from a fairly early stage of communication, you yourself begin to gently touch on sexual notes, leading the conversation into a more and more sexual direction. Let's look at an example together. So let's say you're on a date with a woman you like. Typically, a man shows that he's sexually interested. He gives her some kind of compliment, right? You have such a cute face, you have such slender legs, you have such a beautiful figure. So one way or another, he subtly, carefully, through a compliment, shows that he's interested in the woman. And she kind of gets it. She understands that he's interested. She says, "Thank you, that's nice." But she doesn't get any butterflies in her stomach because there's no playfulness, the very thing that quickly sparks those feelings. That feeling, that takes your breath away. I've actually seen how this happens on a date with a woman, how she suddenly blushes. How does she get into this game? And she starts to feel a lot of emotions. Let me give you an example of how this might look. For instance, when you're on a date with a woman, what can you do? Instead of just telling her she's beautiful or giving her a compliment, you look at her with a half smile. Let's say she's telling you something, and when she falls silent, you say something like this to her. You have a superpower. When I'm sitting next to you, I start having these unusual thoughts that people usually don't talk about in public. You see, you're throwing out this light, sexualized intrigue, and she'll want to ask you, yes, what kind of thoughts? But you don't admit to her what thoughts you're having. Instead, you say, what do you think my imagination is picturing? And of course, she won't be able to say anything to you. She'll just blush. She might just say something like, "Come on, that's not fair. I asked you first." That's already a certain kind of game, you see? And you turn up the heat even more, lean in closer to her, for example, and say, "Well, we'll see. Maybe I'll show you a bit later." And you see, look, this kind of communication style, let me say right away, a lot of men honestly think, "Damn, I've never done anything like this before. I used to get to sex without all this." Yeah, but remember how many times you actually failed to take things to sex or to a relationship? And most likely, those were exactly the women you liked the most. Do you know why? Because those women, from the start, have more options. More men try to talk to them, more men court them. And when you just talk to a woman from the position of "I like you," confess your feelings, give her compliments, she hears that from a lot of men. It doesn't really trigger that kind of sexual response in her, you know? But when you bring in a bit of playfulness like that, a bit of sexuality, first of all, it sparks things very quickly, those goosebumps, butterflies in the stomach. And secondly, it makes her feel he's not like those other men I've talked to. So, if you want to move your interactions toward intimacy as effectively as possible with the women you like the most, then the best and most important step would be to master these flirting skills. How to carry that sexuality in your communication. For now, you might feel this as some kind of discomfort or tension. But look, essentially, with these words, you are the one introducing a certain tension. The woman realizes that some kind of romantic game is starting to unfold. And it's unclear what will happen next, it's unclear what your next move will be, but at the same time, her imagination is already painting some pictures. Let's say she finishes the date with you, she comes home, and one way or another, she has flashbacks. What could that have meant? What will he do next? The other guys didn't behave like that, and this stirs up emotions. You see, and that's how she gradually falls for you, because you do things that other men didn't do. And at the same time, you're not trying to win her over. With all those flowers, courtship, and confessions of feelings that don't create any intrigue, don't stir up any emotions, unlike flirting. And please, remember this principle. Flirting is when, through a bit of ambiguity or wordplay, you create a certain sexual tension in your interaction with a woman. And it's also when you show a woman that you're not going to play by the same rules as the typical nice guys who don't spark any attraction or interest in her. Now we're going to look at a few more examples of flirting so you understand how to accept it, how to use it, and in what situations it can be applied. But before that, there's another very important point. If you start flirting with a woman right away and base your entire interaction solely on that, on this playfulness and sexuality, then the woman, well, she'll start to feel uncomfortable. That's why it's very important for flirting to go hand in hand with comfortable, heartfelt conversation. In other words, you bring in warmth, comfort, build trust, and then add flirting. Then again, a bit of warmth and comfort, and then another flirty element. That way, a woman will quickly experience such a range of emotions and feelings toward you that her subconscious will be telling her, "Damn, this man is really something. He's amazing." We're feeling emotions. Her subconscious will think that she's never felt with other men, and she'll develop a very strong infatuation with you. That's how it works. But again, for this whole combination to work for you, it's also very important to learn how to build emotional connection and trust with a woman. If you have trouble with this, if you talk to them and awkward silences come up, or you don't know what questions to ask, or you don't know how to talk about yourself to a woman in a way that shows yourself in an attractive light, then I highly recommend you read these posts that you'll find on my Telegram channel. My Telegram channel is linked in the description and in the first pinned comment. And there you can read about how in just half an hour of talking to a woman, you can build an emotional connection with her so that she feels around you the way men who already know how to do this make women feel. How to talk about yourself so that a woman forms an image of you as an attractive man. And also quite a lot of flirting techniques. This topic is truly vast. So now I'll give you some more flirting techniques. And on the Telegram channel, you'll also be able to get additional guidance on how to flirt with women. So follow the link in the description or in the first pinned comment and check out everything there. This will be very useful for you when meeting and going on dates with women. The second flirting technique is applicable when a woman tries to put you in the nice guy box. But on the contrary, you need to show her something else. That you won't act the way typical nice guys do when interacting with an attractive woman. For example, let me immediately show you how this works in practice. Let's say a woman tells you, "I like it when a man takes care of a woman." What do typical nice guys do in this situation? They might start finding out what the woman likes. They might start giving her flowers, taking her to restaurants, solving her problems, and thinking, oh, well, I'm showing her how great and caring I am, so obviously she'll fall in love with me. But that's not how it works. If a woman is beautiful, actually, let's talk about women in general first. For a woman to truly fall head over heels as quickly as possible, it's important for her to feel excitement, among other things. Not just emotional connection, but excitement as well. Flowers don't excite, helping her solve problems doesn't excite, going to restaurants, none of that by itself is exciting. That's why you absolutely need to bring in flirting, and you need to position yourself as an attractive man. And an attractive man is not just someone who gives everything, but also knows how to create the conditions so that the woman invests in him too, so that she puts in effort as well, so that she feels his value. So, what would such a man do if a woman told him, you know, I love it when a man takes care of a woman? A man like that might smile and say something like, yeah, but then it won't be easy for you with me. And naturally she'll ask, why? What's the matter? And that's when the man gives her a very important message, one that should always be felt from him. From the man, yes, from the man when interacting with an attractive woman. So the woman might ask this man why he says it won't be easy for her with him. And the man might reply something like this: because I like it when a woman knows how to show care and affection instead of waiting to be persuaded. And in this style of communication, yes, by showing a woman that a relationship is a two-way street, that both people invest, that both make an effort, and that you don't accept. The scenario where only the man tries and earns the woman's affection, this immediately sends some very important signals about you. This shows that you know your own worth, that you most likely have options, because men without options, who blindly fall in love with one woman, they agree with everything she says, try in every way to please her, do everything for her, but they don't excite her. But a man who knows how to calmly and skillfully convey that, dear, a relationship is actually about both people, not just about the man doing everything for the woman. Such a man builds his value in her eyes and can arouse her very quickly. How else can you convey the same signals, even if the woman doesn't tell you? That she likes to be courted? Because you'll find many women who won't flaunt it openly, but deep down inside they have it. This expectation that a man will court her. And ideally, this expectation should be nipped in the bud right from the start, and you should clearly show the woman the optimal course for the development of the relationship so she understands this is exactly what I mean by leading, by being the leader in communication, when you set the tone and show the way. Certain boundaries that will be present in your communication, but not as an ultimatum that could only irritate the woman, but rather in a playful, flirtatious manner. For example, you notice how a woman smiles, or how she fixes her hair, or maybe she looks a certain way, or has beautifully done her lips, her makeup, and so on. And you look at her and say something like this. There are qualities that literally drive men crazy. And naturally she'll want to ask you which qualities. And with a hint of surprise, you can say something like the following. Which ones? I thought you knew which ones. I won't specify them for you because I don't want to fall victim to your charms. And here, you've created the perfect conditions to convey your key value to her. Yes, say something like this. Any relationship is a two-way street. If only one person is really interested and the other isn't, nothing good will come of it. So in this way, you smoothly introduce into your conversation the idea that it's completely normal for a woman to take the initiative, to make an effort for a man, to do something nice for him. Of course, just mentioning it once won't be enough. You basically need to know how to build communication so that the woman sees you as a man who excites her, whom she desires, who evokes strong emotions in her. And again, by applying what I'm telling you in this video and by studying the posts from my Telegram channel about how to position yourself, what to say, what to ask a woman, how to create a soulful connection, it will be much easier for you to become that kind of man for her. Besides that, please remember, any woman, especially those who are particularly attractive, generally likes to conquer. They truly enjoy intrigue, and they like it when they have to make an effort to really win a man over. And so when you don't show her what I just demonstrated at all, it's like you're inviting her to start engaging, to be more active. And women usually, when a man sets things up the way I'm showing you now, and builds emotional intimacy, they start to feel it. They get this inner desire to be more active, to somehow please the man more. If he later asks for something himself, he'll be more motivated to do what he asks for, because the groundwork for that was laid in the conversation with what I just showed you as examples. Now, there's one principle that applies both to flirting and to building a trusting, heartfelt connection. It's gentle touches. First of all, when you touch a woman, I'll tell you exactly how in a moment you break through. You break through that ice of no physical contact. After all, kisses are basically touches with the lips, hugs are touches, and sex is also a form of touch. That's why it's very important to introduce these touches right from the start, but to do it in a way that also helps build emotional connection and trust at first. For example, you share something emotional with a woman, and as you do, you gently touch her hand. Or if a woman shares something emotional with you, you might put your arm around her in that moment. Or you're walking down the street, standing at a crosswalk, and you take her by the elbow as you cross because the light turns green. In other words, use moments like these to introduce such touches. These kinds of touches, you see? And that's how you break the ice and help build more and more trust between you. A quick note for a woman: it's important that a reasonable woman responds positively to these kinds of light touches. It's very important that before this, you use conversation to help build trust and an emotional connection. So if through your conversation you notice that the woman is looking at you more often, she has a gentle smile, she comes closer to you than she did at the beginning of the meeting, she asks you questions, she answers your questions openly and in detail, sharing a lot, great, these are signs that initial trust has been established and emotional connection has been made. Now you can safely allow yourself the kinds of touches I just told you about. And again, if you don't know how to build emotional intimacy, you're welcome to my Telegram channel. Study and apply the tips I share there. In addition, I recommend you read all the posts with the hashtag Flirt, because there you'll find extra insights that will improve the quality of your interactions with women. And also check out this video where I explain how you can literally, in just 1 or 2 dates, take your interaction with a woman to the point of sex. See you in that video. Bye bye.